Taha visits the south districts of Hodeidah for the first time since taking office. Iran mission in UN admits its important part in Yemen during war and peace. The Yemeni government says it will monitor Iran's behavior in Yemen for the coming period. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Shazad Abdelbay. Informed sources said the delegation of Yemeni government and the Houthi group exchanged lists of prisoners. The step was made to verify the identity of the names of prisoners held by each party. According to the source, the verification process is going to continue in the meetings by submitting about 100 names from each party. This report has more details.
The Houthi militia are still detaining Yemeni citizens, keep them in prison, and torture them to death. A Yemeni official revealed that the new round of negotiations over a prisoner swap with the Iran-backed Houthi militia reached an agreement to review and confirm the names of individuals who will be released in the next exchange. The United Nations-sponsored talks had kicked off in Geneva on Saturday. They will also hold talks to add more names to the list. Deputy Minister for Human Rights and member of the government negotiations delegation, Majid Fadail, stated that the first Geneva meeting included the Houthi and UN delegation. All sides agreed on the names already listed and that new ones should be added. He stressed that the government is keen on ensuring the success of the negotiations, saying, "I hope the Houthis will be serious about the talks." The Geneva meetings have been scheduled prior to last week's landmark announcement that Saudi Arabia and Iran agreed to restore diplomatic relations. Meanwhile, the agreement may reflect positively on the Geneva meetings and their outcomes. The meetings will be held over 11 days and efforts are ongoing to add more prisoners held by both warring parties to the exchange list. According to a UN statement last week, UN envoy for Yemen Hans Grunberg had urged both parties to engage in serious and forthcoming discussions to agree on releasing as many detainees as possible and urged the parties to fulfill the commitments they made, not just to each other but also to the thousands of Yemeni families who have been waiting to be reunited with their loved ones for far too long.
The head of the UN mission to support the Hodeidah Agreement, Michael Berry, visited the liberated areas in South Hodeidah to learn about the humanitarian situation and what the Houthi war caused. In the visit, an official meeting was held with the local authority which dealt with many issues, and the conferees denounced the silence of the UN mission regarding the Houthi crimes and violations committed against the people of Hodeidah. This is the first time visit to liberated areas in South Hodeidah by the head of the UN mission to support the Hodeidah Agreement since the mission took over its mission in 2018.
الحقيقة كان اجتماع مثمر وحضره الأخوة أعضاء.
It was a good meeting. We have clearly and transparently expressed our dissatisfaction and the dissatisfaction of the people for the failure to implement the Stockholm Agreement. We are disappointed for not seriously dealing with the Houthi from the part of the United Nations. The meeting raised a lot of questions, some of which had answers, and the United Nations team reserved answers for the rest.
Yemeni activists launched the first popular platform aimed at achieving settlement and building peace. The initiative is the first stage of national independent and neutral initiative that aims to establish peace and achieve settlement. It came as a result of consultations that brought together 16,000 people from various segments of Yemeni society from 9 Yemeni governorates. Iran has once again expressed its optimism about the effects of the agreement concluded with Saudi Arabia a few days ago in China in order to resume relations between the two countries. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman considered that positive atmosphere of relations between his country and Saudi Arabia would be a reason for resolving the crisis in Yemen. This report has more details.
After denying its involvement in the Yemeni conflict, Tehran has implicitly admitted its crucial role in peace and war decisions in the conflict. Iran's mission to the United Nations said the China-brokered agreement with Saudi Arabia restoring bilateral relations with Tehran will help bring about a political settlement to Yemen's years-long war. Iran and Saudi Arabia agreed Friday to re-establish diplomatic relations and reopen their embassies after 8 years of tensions. Experts say the agreement could not have been reached without some understanding on the Yemeni war, which would allow Riyadh to eventually disengage from the bloody conflict. Iran has long been accused by Western governments and the United Nations experts of providing weapons to the Houthis. Western militaries have repeatedly intercepted Yemen-bound ships carrying Iranian weapons in the Red Sea. Tehran, however, has denied arming the Houthis. Citing a statement from Iran's United Nations mission, the deal with Saudi Arabia would accelerate efforts to renew an expired ceasefire deal, help start a national dialogue, and form an inclusive national government in Yemen. Analysts believe that the 2-month deadline set for the resumption of relations between Tehran and Riyadh will test Iran's seriousness over reconciliations, not least in relation to pressuring the Houthis to make a meaningful concession toward the peaceful settlement in Yemen. They add that the attitude of Tehran on the Yemeni issue will be a crucial factor for the outcome of the Saudi-Iranian normalization process. The Yemeni government issued a carefully drafted statement on the deal, reiterating that its position depends on actions and practices, not words and claims.
The Yemeni government announced that it hopes the Saudi-Iranian agreement will change Tehran's policies. The Yemeni government affirmed its sincere belief in dialogue and deciding differences through diplomatic and peaceful means. This report has more details.
The Yemeni government welcomed the announced Saudi-Iranian agreement to restore diplomatic relations between the two countries. However, it said that it would continue to deal with caution with the Iranian regime. The government affirmed its sincere belief in dialogue and resolving disputes through diplomatic and peaceful means, retreating the need to refrain from interfering in the internal affairs of other countries. It asserted its support for any serious and sincere approach with good intention to achieve regional security and stability. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said in a statement that the cabinet hoped the agreement between Saudi Arabia and Iran would constitute a new phase of relations in the region, starting with Iran's cessation of interference in the Yemeni affairs. The government noted that it would continue to deal cautiously with the Iranian regime until it sees a fundamental change in its behavior and destructive policies in Yemen and the region. Meanwhile, the cabinet called on Iran to stop its destabilizing behavior in Yemen and the region through its continued support for the Houthi militia and supplying it with weapons. Yemen's ambassador to Austria delivered a speech during the meetings of the Board of Governors of the International Atomic Energy Agency. He referred to the recent shipments smuggling Iranian weapons to the Houthi militia, describing it as a clear violation of the relevant Security Council resolutions, which prolonged the war and hindered attempts to achieve peace in Yemen. However, the Southern Transitional Council welcomed the agreement, hoping it would help consolidate regional and international security and stability.
EU welcomed the United Nations announcement that it had reached an agreement to purchase a ship to transport crude oil from safer tanker. In addition, the EU considered this agreement an important step to avoid an imminent environmental catastrophe. The EU renewed its commitment to continue supporting the process of saving the oil tanker. The Houthi militia sniper targeted a woman south of Taiz. Sources confirmed that the woman was injured in the left shoulder as a result of being targeted, and she was taken to a Thawda hospital in the city.
The Houthi sniper targeted my mom in Shaqb area. What was her fault? She was going to get a gas cylinder. When she was coming home, she was hit by the bullet. This hasn't happened during the 8 years of war. Who did pay the price of the war but us? Citizens are the only segment who pay the price of the war. We are the victims. We sacrificed our lives and our properties.
Violent clashes broke out with heavy weapons between Al-Halimi tribes and the Houthi militia in Ib. Local sources said the clashes took place after the militia attempted to seize their lands and property. Coming next in the news. Tough water crisis hits Aden amid absence of governmental solutions. Welcome back. Yemen celebrates the Water and Environment Week, coinciding with the World Water Day, in light of a water crisis looming in the country. Yemen is classified as one of the poorest countries in the world in water, amid the absence of effective official interventions and the lack of popular awareness. This report has more details.
Yemen is classified as one of the poorest countries in the world in terms of water, if not the poorest at all. And it's a disaster for the future of Yemenis. And the war has exacerbated its threat. The causes of the water tragedy in Yemen are many, as well as the global climate change.
We are trying to implement projects that are funded by the private sectors. Currently, we have a budget of $33 million that we are able to attain in the last period. These projects are aiming to adapt to the climate change and protect the environment.
Experts agree on the huge challenges Yemen faces in the water and environment sectors, calling for a number of urgent measures to be taken to save what can be saved.
We are facing a lot of challenges, including the water crisis. Every individual in Yemen has to keep an eye on this issue, and the responsibility of water is a collective one, not only the ministry's responsibility. When there is a strict law and a fixed share of water, people will find themselves obliged to abide by them. There has also to be an awareness campaign to let people know the fact that we are facing a water scarcity problem.
Rationalizing the use of basic resources, such as water, secures the factors of stability and civilization for any country. And this is what the Water and Environment Week initiative is trying to embody in the awareness and understanding of citizens. And it was launched in Aden under the government supervision.
The Yemeni government condemned Houthi freezing of Yemeni Airlines accounts in banks located under its control. In addition, the government said these measures put danger to stop paying employees' wages and disrupt all services provided by the company to all citizens in various governorates. It pointed out that the practices confirmed the Houthi group's insistence on continuing the approach of escalation and blocking any steps to ease the humanitarian situation. Yesterday, Yemeni Airways denied Houthi accusations that the company stopped flights from Sana'a International Airport to India and Egypt. The company affirmed its full readiness to operate flights to and from Sana'a to any region in Yemen without exception. Masan project for demining in Yemen announced it cleared more than 880 mines in the first week of March. According to the statistics of the project, the numbers of mines cleared since the beginning of the project until March 10 has increased to more than 300,000 mines. This report has more details.
Painful scenes and images that show the extent of the human tragedy. These are the victims of the Houthi mine war that takes the lives of innocent people without guilt and does not differentiate between a child, a young man, or an old man, whether a male or a female, and for years since they were hit, they have been living without care or attention.
I have been talking on TV through different channels for 5 years now, calling for our rights and needs. We as disabled people have many requirements and demands, but no one is listening to us. We need electric chairs, special cars, and devices that could make our lives a lot easier. International organizations should pay more attention to our case.
In the face of all this suffering, international organizations continue to ignore the suffering of the crippled mine victims who have become forgotten even at the level of government agencies and humanitarian organizations. Their fate has become unknown.
The international organizations aren't giving us anything. We are victims here in this country. We got injured as a result of the Houthi mines that are planted everywhere around us. They should at least provide us with wheelchairs. It's extremely hard on us to move from one place to another. We are not asking for too much.
The young man Munir Abdullah from a village north of Hais was seriously injured and lost his left hand as a result of a Houthi mine that he had lured while he was working on his land, which the Houthis turned into a minefield, and here the militia left its shameful mark after destroying his future.
And instead of planting something to eat from, the Houthis planted mines around us. They just brought damage and destruction to this country, nothing else. It isn't only me. There are lots of disabled people who cannot move or practice their life normally. Now we are asking the authorities to look to our situation and help us. We have families that we are not able to feed. How are we supposed to survive?
These victims are the ones who received the deputy head of the United Nations mission in support of the Hodeidah-Stockholm Agreement during her visit to the liberated areas in Hodeidah in mid-February. The citizens paid the bill for this unjust agreement with their lives. Why the militia adopted this agreement that was imposed for humanitarian reasons as an umbrella to practice all methods of violations and crimes. The United Nations handed over 120 kilometers of the coastline to the militia, starting from the roundabout of Al-Hodeidah and ending in Jabal al-Tuhaita, which observers see as nothing but an intended service to the Iranian-backed Houthi militia.
Here's a reminder of the main headlines. Head of UNMAHA visits the South Districts of Hodeidah for the first time since taking office. Iran mission in UN admits its important part in Yemen during war and peace. The Yemeni government says it will monitor Iran's behavior in Yemen for the coming period. This is the end of the news. Thank you for watching.